As we witness the planet evolving and changing, we are more than mere bystanders. We, as the collective of humanity, are experiencing a perfect reflection upon which the universe has orchestrated itself. Our bodies, they are the missing link. Evolution is upon us, below us, in us, and in all of creation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio and the debut episode of the weekly show of Elemental Evolution. I'm your host, Leslie Blair. Let me explain little gifts about myself. Came to me as a child, which ranges from remote viewing to spiritual intuition and premonitions. I'm intuitive, a visionary, and a time traveler. I've had many encounters with ET life. I've experienced out-of-body adventures and also interdimensional traveling. My specialties have recently earned positions of songwriter, producer, audio engineer, video editor, graphics designer, voiceover talent, and some technical consulting work. I'm transitioning out of the usual job marketing field in Orlando, Florida, to practice healing work for humanity. I'm here with our co-host, Sherry Wisdom. Say hello, Sherry.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, let's explain here. We have Sherry. Sherry practices cellular somatic healing, life coaching, and health nutrition. Sherry practices with understanding of quantum language and how it relates to the physical, holistically of mind, body, and spirit. She has been practicing magic, sacred geometry, energy fields, and astral projection, yes, since she was the age of 10. Sherry's mind has always been a beacon, a transmitter, opening her to all that is called life in the universe. Sherry's background while in college has been studying behavioral science and criminal justice and emphasis on international law. Okay, Sherry is a certified cellular somatic life coach. Our other co-host is India. India, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Glad to be here.
Awesome. A little bit about India. India has been a minister of Universal Life Church and is a natural, empathic healer and teacher. India is committed to serve others in their process of healing and assimilation from the old paradigm into the new. India is a Florida State University alumni. My diverse background has been in the fields of publications, finance, and economics. Like many on the planet, India is transitioning herself out of the corporate past and into the healing future. Her spiritual essence connects to the Christ consciousness. We also have Bethany Croma. Say hello, Bethany.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome to the show. So,
Thank you.
yes, Bethany. A little bit about Bethany. Bethany has been practicing pranic healing since 2011 and is a natural energy healer. Bethany has assisted patients with a soul transition while working as a nursing assistant. She spent over 4 years in the mainstream health field, during which she performed energy healing for her patients. She commits herself in assisting her clients transition from the old paradigm into the new. She stands for freedom, friendship, and living with a free spirit. Bethany's intuitive and empathetic abilities, grow stronger as she works with humanity's collective energy. So welcome to the show, everybody. This is Elemental Evolution. Okay, and our website is www.elementalevolution.org. So if you have any additional info you'd like to request, feel free to message any of us there. Okay, so what we'd like to do is, Sherry, if could you please kind of elaborate and explain exactly what is elemental evolution? What is this? What is this?
So, elemental evolution is
kind of a collective of individuals who have come to a place and insight of understanding how energy and the body and the mind, the spirit, all of the things that are in collective that create our reality, how these things work or how they are in manifestation, how we can assist ourselves in having a deeper understanding, and kind of coming back to a place of digging our feet back into the earth, right? Like,
yes.
Yes. Yeah, not having as much to do with the advanced society, but advancing internally more so, right?
That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And for those that may not be aware, the Mind, Body, Soul trilogy, could you explain that?
It makes, I think that anybody or most people have an understanding of what a trilogy or how the trilogy has been presented. Mind, body, spirit. There's all kinds of different acronyms that can be used to represent that. But what it comes down to is it takes those three things, right, that are put here on the planet in this reality, the 3D, to actually generate a 3D reality, right? It's like the body, the mind, the soul come together and play, right, to create and manifest this 3D reality that we're experiencing. And it's at a place where people for a long period of time have studied about the mind and studied about the soul, right? Like really meditating and learning all different types of expansion soul-wise, coming into our higher self, as it's called. Right? But the thing that has been forgotten or kind of left out is the body, right? The piece, the vessel, the thing that actually is in the physical part of this reality, right? That is like the generator.
Yes.
And this is where the teaching comes in as far as remembering that our bodies are a part of our being, the cellular structure of our bodies are, and it's described in so many different ways, but I think one of the ways that people will be able to relate is like understanding that this is the time of Adam, right? And people have taken that as in a biblical sense and given it a representation, but in the reality that I'm talking about, it's Adam, Atom, right? It's like the way that, it's like the way that the atom works. It is the time of Adam. And so everything on the planet, everything that we're experiencing is made up of exactly that, the atom, and including the body, right? And if you were to lay out the human body and actually like take a look at how it's structured and the vibration of each organ and how the vascular system works, you would see that it is a replication of the universe, or maybe vice versa.
Yes.
Right? And so in manifestation in the body, what's happened is that in the beginning, when we're born, there's so much heaviness and there's so much trauma being passed on to our children, to, anyone that's at a position of being imprinted. And so at these young ages, before the front lobe of the brain is actually fully developed, it understands only a certain process, right? Like as your little being, you only understand what's happening right then, and that is what life is. There's really no past or future. It's like right now, bam, that's like what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah. And so what happens energetically is that the body, the way that it works, if things are not flowing properly, if they're not able to come into the body and then release, come into the body and release, if they get stuck in a certain area in the body, in a certain part of the tissue, right, which is done energetically, but there's also a very scientific definition of this, which is, Candace Pert, a very renowned scientist, she brought it to play that the receptors that were once thought of in the brain are actually throughout the entire body. And what those receptors are responsible for doing and what's happening is they're opening and closing, right? And these receptors hold what's called a peptide. And this peptide is actually emotion, right? And so it comes into the peptide, it comes out, it comes in, it comes out. That's if everything's moving properly, right? If you're allowed to release, if you're not in suppression.
Yes.
But when you're in suppression or things are holding in the body, all of a sudden those receptors close up and it's holding that vibration, whatever that peptide is. So if it's fear or sorrow, anger, you can go through a whole list of that low vibration that gets stuck in that receptor.
Yes.
Right? And as the atom works, right, the body being physical and created of all atoms, as something becomes physical and becomes the atoms that are generating, it's projecting out and pulling in, projecting out and pulling in. So, and this is, we talked about this in the video a little bit, but this is such a great example. It's like the baby that gets left in the crib for too long, right?
Yes.
That baby, the parents, it doesn't mean that the parents are horrible people. It means that that baby's laying there for maybe, say, 5.5 minutes. But there's, understanding that there's no concept of past or future. It's like that's a long freaking time to a baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's and all of a sudden that baby is like, wait a second, I'm alone.
Abandonment.
Yes. So it can be something as that simple, and all of a sudden that's what life is, because it's not that it stays that way in the mind, but it sticks in the body. And then that's what is generated out and pulled in, generated out and pulled in, pushing out, pulling in. Right.
Yes.
That's exactly it. And so then throughout that being's lifetime, they will continue to recreate the same type of vibration of being alone, of being abandoned, of being this or being that, without even doing it consciously, right? It's like, it's just like they don't understand why it keeps happening, why these, they have different people, the different relationships, and it always turns out the same.
Fascinating. Yes.
And so that, it gives a lot of explanation. And so, and the difference, and I guess this is like the evolutionary part of it for me, is that the difference between this process and like psychology or other methods of release is that it's actually going into the seed, right? The place where it's actually beginning and like pulling it out from the roots, right? Like really taking a hold of the piece where it started, pulling it out and not allowing it to grow anymore, not allowing it to generate, it's just pulling it into the light and allowing it to,
sunlight being the best disinfectant, so to speak. Yes.
Exactly. And this is the thing. It's amazing how once we bring things to the consciousness, because these things are in our body, they're in most people, and so these dark spots, which are not of darkness in judgment of like good or evil, but in just solidness, right? Because here's another thing, is that when the atom becomes solid, like when that receptor is holding that peptide and it becomes more of a solid form, and it kind of is growing out, right? It's like becoming more in tissue even, and it's becoming more infested or whatever you want to call it. That's what then becomes the solidness in the body. That's what's creating the illness in that area. That's what's creating the sickness, the mental psychosis. All of these things are these solid spots that are not allowing the flow of our being, right? It's like I said, it's like you need an oil change, right? Like
right.
They're not clicking. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
very interesting, fascinating.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where this process takes people, is allowing, again, like that root to be pulled out, looked at, and released. And instead of wallowing in it, instead of bringing it to the consciousness and reliving it, because that's what ends up happening, is you bring things to the consciousness. If you don't release them, all of a sudden you find that you're living it again. And sometimes it's more intense, because as the atom duplicates, as it becomes more solid, it does become heavy. That's not just because of an energetic factor. That's like, it's the way that it is. It's like the atom, as it duplicates, become heavier each time and become more dense. So
like a loop, yes.
Exactly. It's like, so it just becomes, and that's what, again, causes the actual physical sickness in the body. Right?
And
so,
very often, if I understand this correctly, very often people are having things like this, these issues stemming from things and have no idea what's going on.
exactly. Or they think, they go to the doctor and all of a sudden they're putting Band-Aids on it, they're taking medications or they're doing different things, and so the symptoms are going away, but then all of a sudden it shifts to another part of their body, like, they're having this problem with their kidneys, and then all of a sudden that gets better, or they're not experiencing pain, it's not really getting better, and then all of a sudden the spleen is like, trashed, or it's like it's almost like it pushes itself into another area, it expands, right, as it's growing.
Yes.
And so, and it's almost like, because it is generating out and pulling in, the experiences that we have are like putting salt on that wound, right? Like it's like it makes more scar tissue, more layers of shit on top of it, more confirmation from the universe.
Okay.
Right? That's all part of it. It's like that's the projection and that's the pull in. It's not just like going nowhere. It's like the universe is answering our ad. Like what we're projecting out of our bodies is what the universe is saying, okay, I'll give it to you. I want to, it wants to show up for us. So
matching the vibrations that we're transmitting out.
Exactly right. All the time. No matter what. That's like, and so as you're having, and this is where thought comes into play and remapping the mind, that's another piece of this process, is that as you're pulling out these seeds in the body, allowing the mind to see that they really weren't of truth anyway.
Wow.
Right? And that's right, because when your ideas at 3, right, are not really, even though that's the perception and truth of a 3-year-old, that's probably not really the reality of truth.
Exactly. Just like the reference you gave a moment ago about the time in the crib. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and so once you bring that to the consciousness, which there comes into play, this is kind of a tricky aspect, because you're asking the mind to remap itself, but then you're also asking it to step aside at the same time, right? Because it has to fall back into the body so that it can remember. The mind it doesn't usually remember the trauma at 3 years old that was not substantial in the 3D of now. But the body does, right? Because it's the one generating it out and pulling it in. So it remembers. So as you fall into the body and you come into those places, that's what then, releases out instead of projecting out and pulling in, projecting out and pulling in.
Exactly. I'd like to take a moment to go ahead and say, hey, callers, if you want to call in, the number is 646-716-4598, and you are listening to Elemental Evolution, and I'm your host, Leslie Blair. Yes, that's me. And we're speaking with Sherry Wisdom. And Sherry practices cellular somatic healing, for those who may have logged on a few minutes late. And we're discussing exactly the processes of how the mind affects the body and how to address these things in a very quantum type of approach that Sherry's an expert at. And so, Sherry, if you would, please, by all means, continue.
Well, and so like another big piece of this, there's so many layers that have accumulated in the body, and so that's one of the things, like people will have a release and they think, whew, I'm done with that, right? But it's also, again, in a trilogy, right? It's like it comes in layers. It comes in the layers of, usually it's anger, because that's the most acceptable emotion for some reason on this planet. It's like it's way more acceptable for somebody to get pissed off than it is to actually sit down and cry, right?
Yes.
So that goes to this place of like when our needs are not met, we go into being pissed off about it, right?
Yes.
But then when it really breaks down and you get through that layer of anger, what you come to is this layer of like sadness, right? Sadness about the need not being met. Like you're sad about it. You feel, all these different emotions that are related to the sadness. And then once that is processed through, then you actually hit the core of it, right? This is the seed, and this is where the seed comes to play, and it's fear, right? Being scared of not having the need met, because if our needs are not met, we feel all of these different emotions that are not just emotions flowing from the body, but become our life is,
Mm.
right?
So you're
like,
peeling away these layers to get to the core, to the essence of what is. I wanted to ask, if I may, Sherry, for those listening, is this something, some people are familiar with past lives and that sort of thing. So that's just a question of mine. Like, are these issues, okay, are they stemming from just, let's say, from infancy until, or is it possible that some of this might be lingering over from a previous life?
Well, it's kind of interesting that you're bringing that up because, when I first started working with this process, my answer would have been no, it's always in the now.
Ah,
right?
Okay.
But as I learned more and I started working with more people, I came to understand that there are times, there are circumstances, there are ways that it's almost like what happens is that, let's say there's a being, a person is experiencing extreme trauma, right? Like something that is very overwhelming to the body. They don't actually die, but that like their being actually leaves the body at that point, right? Because it's so traumatic.
Yes.
So what happens is when they actually do die and they leave the body, it's almost like a ball bouncing. Instead of it bouncing into the light, the essence of our being, it bouncing into the universe and reconnecting to the collective, it's like it bounces up and then like a video game, it bounces right back into a body.
Ah.
Right? And so what happens is that energetic emotion or energetic vibration is then carried into the new entity, right? And usually what happens is where it bounces back into is already in that vibration. So the mother is already experiencing whatever that trauma is, right?
Like yes.
Right, because it's attracted to the same, again, it's, universal law. It's like that vibrational attraction. It's going to dive back into exactly where it came from so that it can have expression, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like I've had clients or I've had people that when they're doing the process, they'll go through the layers, they'll come into a place of really recognizing where it hit and seated in this reality, and then all of a sudden fall into a lifetime that is not of this reality, but they can feel and know that it existed. And then it's almost like that whole time, every existence that we've ever had is then cleared. It's like, and this takes me into another like description of evolution again, right? As Venus came into play and as the solar flares and as things are starting to energetically shift and push into the planet, it's causing the planet to evolve. And so as the planet is evolving, right, as within is without, and so the beings that are inhabiting the planet are also evolving. And this is where there's so much that it's like the one thing that I keep hearing over and over is like the time of karmic debt, the time of not being able to free ourselves from our slavery of past lifetimes and limited understanding is now over.
Yes.
Right? And so it's like all those things, like you don't have to go into your past lives to clear them. You can do it in the now because you are experiencing it all from the now, right? And so that's the time of now. But it's also, it doesn't mean that you won't have those flashbacks or those experiences as the clearing happens, right? Because you don't know what's stuck in that cellular energy.
What happens once you clear it out?
So it's almost like, so once you clear that out, and that's part of this process, is that it feels like you refill it up, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, the process that I use is I have someone think about something that really makes them happy or that brings in that really high vibration, right? Like something that really brought them a lot of joy. So after a release, you have them fill it back up with a different vibration. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be, something funny. It can be something, emotionally feeling good, like a time when somebody really felt loved or cared for, or some time that really brought them joy. Whatever that is, you pull, because the mind doesn't really know the difference, right? Once you bring that vibration into the body, the mind is then being remapped because it's like thinking, oh, okay, yeah, this is what it is, right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
the universe is going to like that sign above your head is being rewritten, right? Like, so all of a sudden, that dark spot that's been blasting above your head and these neon colors is now all of a sudden saying something totally different, right?
Right.
So, and it's not that the people around you are going to change necessarily, but it's like that place of where when you're vibrating at a different level, the way that people answer your ad all of a sudden changes.
I see. So the vibrations that are now transmitting outwardly, different frequency, different level, which that in return is matched by the universe, drawing it back in.
So yeah, that's exactly it. And
I
that's,
see.
yeah, and that's exactly, and that's, you know, and if you think about like how everything is of an atom, right? Like anything physical in this reality, and then you break it down into how it works, it makes sense that, first of all, taking the three, right? Because that's what actually is in creation of the atom. And so it's like all of these different concepts that have been broken down into separation and suppression, religion, and all these things. It's really like they've been messages, but just not of the time in consciousness, right? Which is the time of now, which is why elemental evolution is now coming to play, because it's time, right? The planet it's shifting. People have to have understanding of what's coming, because it's going to be one of those times. It is one of those times where if we don't lift our vibration, if we don't match the vibration of the planet, we don't evolve with it, right? We go someplace else where we are able to vibrate where we're at and then evolve from there. That's not a place of judgment. That's just what happens.
Yes.
So the people that are in process of evolving and want to evolve with the planet and the universe at this time, it's clearing the body so that everything can work the way that it's supposed to, so that we can connect into our higher self, so that we can vibrate at that level of knowing and understanding that's beyond judgment.
Yes. Yes. And in a minute, I guess we can go to the phones and take some questions. I'm sure some listeners would possibly have some questions for you, Sherry. And India, you hanging tight?
I'm here, loving it.
Loving it? And how you doing, Beth? Bethany, you doing all right?
Good. Yes, I'm doing well. Thank you.
This is incredible. This is awesome. Well, all right. All right. Yes, what we're going to do, we're going to take a little minute break, and we'll come right back. So stay tuned. You're listening to Elemental Evolution right here on Blog Talk Radio. That's www.elementalevolution.org. And to call in, if you want to call, please call 646-716-4598. Okay? All right, and we'll be back. All right? We'll be right back.
As we witness the planet evolving and changing, we are more than mere bystanders. We, as the collective of humanity, are experiencing a perfect reflection upon which the universe has orchestrated itself. Our bodies, they are the missing link. Evolution is upon us, below us, in us, and in all of creation.
There we go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Hello, and we're back. You're listening to Elemental Evolution. I'm your host, Leslie Blair, and we're here with Sherry Wisdom. And Sherry was explaining the process of elemental evolution. And if you...
I have a question.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring up, in talking about the evolution of humanity and the consciousness and how, as Sherry is offering, how impactful it is to go into ourselves and to release those things. And I also wanted to just delineate that if we each take responsibility, personal responsibility, and do that for our own selves, imagine taking into account like the butterfly effect, the effect that it will have on the collective of humanity, even for those who are maybe not quite even as aware or awake as some others of us may be at this time. Just imagine the cleansing of each of our own beings, what that can offer to the planet, what it can offer to humanity, what it can offer to the universe as a whole. So, I mean, one person thinking, well, it might not be that important. It really is, because it means more than just to the person doing it. And sometimes we forget that.
Indeed.
I think that's such a great point, too, because it's like, that's part of this whole thing. It's not about one person. It's not about processing one person. It's not about, just getting this out there. It's like actually shifting the collective so that the planet and the beings can evolve. It's like you're so tag on with, like, it matters so much as each person reaching into the collective and then spreading it out. It's eventually just something that it can't help but then evolve. So that's the whole deal.
That's right. If we claim our sovereignty, we can claim it for the planet as well. And it will allow her to be able to do the same without such resistance.
And that's exactly, you just, like, that's another, like, it's just, you keep hitting it, because it's like, as we are evolving and touching in and cleansing the planet and kind of energetically understanding ourselves and cleaning, it's happening in the planet, it's happening in our being, it's happening in the universe, it's happening way beyond probably even our mind's comprehension. It's like amazing.
And you can see it in everything. It's in the news, it's in the current events, it's in geopolitical affairs, it's in the financial sector, it's in the collective of humanity, it's in the masses waking up and standing for what is right instead of who is right. You can see it reflected in the universe, in the constellations, in supernal alignments of heavenly bodies. You can see it in the animals, the plant life. There's nothing that's not changing and evolving.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nothing.
And it's amazing. Like, you're so, and it breaks down even, like you said, when you mention that, it doesn't even have to be in the consciousness. Like, you'll hear people talking about, oh, my tummy is upset and I've been feeling dizzy. Like, they don't even know. Like, they think they need to go to the doctor because they have no comprehension of the energy matter that's hitting their body.
Exactly.
And so it's like, that's a big thing, is people don't clear it as they hold that energy and just expand that darkness in the body. That's what will
consume.
Right, it shifts them out, right? Like, that's where we'll begin to see them beings, shift out quickly and probably in masses. So, which is, that will then, generate fear and all these other things, which is then, kind of where we have to, really keep ourselves out of, because if we contribute anything and we put energy into those, we're just feeding it.
That's the message of the Ankh in ancient Egypt.
Okay.
The Ankh is putting out and bringing back. So you don't want to Ankh your negative energy. You don't want to feed the wolf that you don't wish to grow. So if you fear and doom, gloom, squad, and all of that sort of thing, it may be frivolous at the time, but you're doing damage. You're creating your tomorrows in every moment of now. And people forget that. Your body doesn't forget it, though.
You're exactly right. That's so true. Now, there seems to be...
Go ahead, Sharon.
There seems to be a question on the board.
Yes, I was just getting ready to say, we have a question from Gail Kenyon. And the question says, will this process also affect our DNA lineage and remove from our ancestral lines also?
And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens is as that vibration is held in the body, it actually does. It's like it's generating and creating a different type of vibration from the body. So it's tapping into the spinal cord, which is the main vibration of our DNA, and it's not necessarily altering it. It's like it's changing it with that vibration shooting into it, like giving it drugs or giving it, something that doesn't allow it to actually vibrate at its normal whatever.
It's like a download. Like you're getting new downloads. You're getting a download or an upload, depending on if you want to see it from as coming from universal, if you want to see it sprouting up from the planet, which is our mother, our creative being. So no matter how you visualize it, you are getting an upgrade.
Right, and that's exactly
better than an iPhone. You're getting an upgrade. It's becoming crystal beings. That means
and it does
something.
spread. And here's the thing: is what's interesting about this, and I can't, I don't want to put like a ton of claim on this, but I know it's true from my own experience. Is that as I began to clear my body, and as I began to take recognition and look at how I not only experienced a certain vibration, but then I regenerated in what my reality was, and then I handed it down to my children.
Yes.
As I started realizing that and taking recognition and all these things, it did vibrationally shift my children. It changed my relationship with my parents. It changed the relationship with my coworkers. It changed the relationship. How people were answering my ad shifted almost immediately.
As well as how you answer your own ad. You stop the self-deprecating behaviors. You stop being your very own worst abuser. Because we have people who experience traumatic events, and once they are clear of the environment that inflicted the trauma or tragedy, they take it upon themselves to continue to bash themselves, whether it's verbally, mentally, or by allowing, behaviors or behaviors that are not in service to our best, highest good.
We have another question from Mystified. Mystified would like to know, do you see a role for psychedelics?
Well, I think that here's the whole thing with psychedelics is I believe that once you come and you're vibrating at a certain level, you don't need those kind of things, right? Because you're vibrating there. You're living in that place where those psychedelic drugs take you, right? Because that's what you touch, and it allows you to dimensionally shift. It takes you into a different vibration that the body's not used to, which gives you a different reality. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's just like any other aid, it doesn't stick, right? So when you take drugs and then you go to these places, that's why you come back and you feel like shit. And
I see it as a tool, and even if you look at shamanic societies or like the native cultures or indigenous cultures who do use these different types of plant-based substances or what have you, it's a very sacred type of a ritualistic experience. It's not a recreation. It's not done for fun. It's done in a serious setting, and a certain mindset has to be achieved before it's even attempted. And even those people who I've spoken to several personally will tell you it's not something that's taken lightly, and it's not advised, because our skin suit technology has all of this already, is pre-programmed and implemented in it. So for those who are on a certain path who need to or feel the need to go through certain journeys to ascension or whatever you'd like to call it, that works for some, but I wouldn't suggest it as a way to become enlightened using something synthetic, because everything that we have, from a phone to any medication to a computer to DMT or anything else, is something that's replicated off of what the body technology, what the skin suit already is built to do. So that's what we're trying to get back to, our organic technology. What are we made to be able to do? Because we have no idea, actually, because most of it's never been
shut down for so long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So low.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we have another question again. Gail Kenyon. She asked, as I understand this process, it will clear you so that as you can treat clearly what we truly desire to manifest, is this also true?
Yes. It's like bringing it to the consciousness. And I think one of the best examples of somebody actually living this and doing it that would be more known is like Eckhart Tolle. He really, he in his books and in his writings, he says when he wakes up in the morning, he decides how his day is going to be. He manifests and creates his reality from the second he wakes up. And when the body is clear and you're not manifesting and pulling in from a place of wounding, a place of sorrow, a place of sadness, a place of low vibration, right?
Yes.
That's where the manifestation and the mind remapping comes into play, right? And our higher self, the purpose of our being starts manifesting. And as the things that we desire are no longer in lack, we can then push and be so in consciousness of like instant manifestation.
Yes.
That's the whole idea. It's like that's the whole idea of this process, manifesting and living in the reality of our being. And also, it's like my saying is waking up happy and going to bed the same way every day. Right? Because when you're manifesting
outside of ourselves.
That's right.
Not because you have a car in the garage, or because you won the lotto, or because tomorrow's Saturday and you don't have to work. Be really happy on a Monday. I don't get deism. Be happy on a Monday. I don't like that,
It doesn't matter if we're creating it differently and we're not going to the dead-end job and we're not doing the things that, are really suppressing our being. It is an excitement. And think about then when people are getting up with excitement, what is that putting into the collective? Right? We're no longer putting in that somber bullshit like, the drugs, the rush hour traffic, the getting your paycheck and it's not covering your bill. All that shit is gone, eliminated, because we're no longer generating from that place.
And even while you're in transition, if those things are happening, when you remove yourself from the attachment of outcome, it doesn't really matter as much anymore. Because I still have bills. I still have light bulbs to blow. Sometimes my lawn man doesn't show up. And so those are things that make my little OCD self a little annoyed. But I can't let that ruin my day. Because then what? So I sulk for 7 hours. That helps. Not at all. So, choose to wake up and choose to have a good day. Choose to be a good day. That means that you are you, the best you, throughout the day for no other reason.
Yes. Awesome. Coming up soon, we'll be going to the lines and getting some calls if you have some questions. And that number is 646-716-4598. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio, and you're listening to Elemental Evolution, and I'm your host, Leslie Blair, and your co-hosts we have here are Sherry Wisdom and India and Bethany Palmer. And we're just explaining this wonderful, incredible potential of unlocking the human being and unlocking the mind, connecting things, mind, body, and spirit, and have them all working together as they're supposed to work, intended to work, for the overall health and betterment of the collective, of not only just individual, but the collective. We're all are one. We're vibrating and attracting and all of that. So it's important to be finely tuned. Yes. Oh, we have another question here. And it's Gail. Gail Kenyon says, once you learn this process, can you then do this clearing for yourself? Very good question, Gail.
Well, that's the whole idea, right? Like, that is not, like, in this process, that's kind of what my goal is I work with a person for 12 weeks, clearing them in the beginning and then teaching them how to stay and maintain that for themselves. Because it's not about, this isn't psychiatry. This isn't about working with somebody for 2 years or having somebody cry on your shoulder or having support.
Nobody's being a guru.
Right. It's nothing like that, right? It's like that's not my place in this at all. It's like I'm here to bring the process to to the public, to the people, right, and bring it out so that people can heal themselves, so that they can see where the manipulation and the lies and the ideas of what has been our reality have been played into, and just make the shift, right, without having to really do anything. Because that's another thing. Once you bring these wounds to the consciousness, it's almost like it's like magic. You don't really have to. You don't have to put your once that place of low vibration is no longer generating, and you've brought in a different consciousness. You don't have to do. You don't have to focus on something. It's already happening. It's already in the now.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the most exciting part for me.
Yeah, it really is, because I've watched it, and it's amazing how the universe really shows up for each being, right? Like, so as people are processing and whatever's happening, right,
Yes.
there'll be somebody that shows up that is the perfect shit kicker, right? Like, just it's like they're the ones that will come up and just really bring it right to your consciousness so that you can really feel the vibration and then recognize it and fall back into the body so that it can be released, right? Because sometimes when you're forgetting and you're living in the 3D of now and survival and blah, 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 it takes those kind of jolts to do the remembering, to fall back into, again, where it started, the root. And it's this process can be done individually. It can be done in a group. And in watching it in a group, I've seen, like, again, amazing how the universe shows up. So you'll have, a group of 9 people sitting in a room, and this woman will have an issue about, something in the dynamic of the family. So the brother or the sister did something. Well, then in the group, so what happens is you actually pull individuals to play different roles, right? Like, okay, this person's going to actually be the physical brother so that you have that. You can actually bring that energetic out onto a physical plane. And so what happens is then you'll find out that brother, just by complete coincidence, if you believe in that, is that brother will have the exact opposite of the wounding, right? So, like, let's say that the brother was one of those who every time trouble started in the house, he would go and hide, right? Well, so the woman will tag somebody. She'll pull out the person that's the role that he actually played in his family dynamic, right? It, like, they just magnetically connect to each other, and it's almost like it's played out, but it's just completely, again, the universe showing up. It's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so if you are a shit kicker, please come on over to www.elementalevolution.org. Yes, and call in if you have questions. We're having a ball. This is great. This is awesome. Any additional info requested, feel free to message any of us at www.elementalevolution.org. And that call-in number, once again, is 646-716-4598. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well. Okay. Let's see. So we got earlier, Sherry, you mentioned about the processing from child to adult to, and you mentioned past life, whereas at one point that, you didn't think that was possible, but as the more you got into this, you found out that it was some correlation between that, if I'm remembering that correctly, yes?
Well, yes, and there's yes, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, excuse me. We'll go to the phone lines at this point. Someone has a question. Anybody has a question? Anybody on the phones with a question? Hello, Gail. Yes, I see you. Let's see. No questions as of just yet.
So what I like. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of what I was thinking is that I have Bethany who's sitting next to me, and I'd like to run a short process on her, kind of on the air because I think that it gives people kind of an idea of how in the now, falling back into where it came from can do the release, and how we are creating from that place of the beginning, right? And we're manifesting in the now, but it's not really about what's happening. It's about that time and vibration of before.
So we have an actual demonstration of the process of what you speak of, yes?
Right. I think I think that could maybe give people a little better understanding of what it is that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, we're almost an hour into the show, so by all means, proceed.
Okay, so how this works is in touching into a person, into their energetic field, and feeling into what's happening into their body. It's not a story necessarily, but it is a vibrational story. And so I take some time in the beginning to just kind of, like I said, touch into the person that I'm working with and just kind of feel into what their body's telling me, right? Like, what is it that needs to come out? What's going through their body, right? And just kind of feeling into that, and then being able to kind of not necessarily take the person there, because one of the things that I've learned over time is that, that saying, you can lead a horse to water, is more true than ever with this, because if you try and force somebody to drink, you drown them.
Oh, wow.
So it's like you have to let it flow organically and allow the person to process through their consciousness as they are ready for it, right? Like as they are coming into their evolution, allowing it to process and go at a free flow instead of just shocking or being overbearing, because then it doesn't hold anyway, right? It's like it sticks for a little while and then it dissipates and it goes away.
Okay.
Right. So usually how I start out is I ask somebody about what's going on with them in the present time, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever's bothering them, whatever kind of experiences, either at work or a relationship or with their kids, their husband, whatever it is, like something that's in their consciousness that's bothering them, that they're having a hard time with.
Okay.
And so I'm going to start with that and asking, like, what has been happening for you in the last week that's really brought on a lot of emotions?
Well, I was in a relationship that was more extreme than any of the other relationships that I have been in. It's kind of like a big slam in my face. Like, here it is. Kind of like for the last time, like really intense.
And what was it that was like, so what was it that was so intense? Like, what do you, when you're talking about, again and all these things, like, so give some circumstances, like what was the dynamic of the relationship?
It was very controlling and manipulative, and that's, pretty much it.
So being controlling and manipulative, right? Those are, in this process, those are key words because they tag emotion, right? And so what I'd like you to do is I just kind of want you to take some deep breaths and just kind of feel into the body, right? And when you think of this person and you think of the circumstances in the relationship, I want you to just kind of notice, like, where is it that you feel it in the body, right? Like, where is it that you start to feel pulsation, that you start to feel a heavier vibration?
It's like a mix between my head and my stomach.
Right, so like right in the in the chest area, the throat, the jaw, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want you to do is, like, you just kind of pull your consciousness into that space, right? Like really exaggerate it, like feel into the emotion. And then tagging it, right? Like, so what is that emotion? Let's put a name on it. Is it mad, sad, scared, glad?
Mad.
Mad, right? And so I want you just to really, again, bring your consciousness into that space. And I just want you to start with, I'm mad that. And just let it blurt out from the body. Don't put any judgment on it. Don't let it flow through the mind. Just let it flow out of the body naturally. I'm mad that, whatever comes.
I'm mad that you thought I was not worthy of anything, that you had to tell me who I was or who I needed to be.
And so in saying these things, like you're seeing this person, right? I want you to pull him into your consciousness. I want you to see his face, right? Really take a look at the way he moves his mouth, the way he smells, and really bring him into the consciousness. And I want you to look him right in the face, and I want you to tell him, I'm mad that, until there's nothing left. Repeat the phrase out loud. And even if it's not coming through the consciousness, repeat the phrase, I'm mad that.
I'm mad that I even looked at your face.
Exactly.
Like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, that, like, geez.
Keep going. I'm mad that.
I'm mad that you controlled me. I'm mad that you manipulated me and used me and never appreciated me.
And let that vibration, right, really come into the consciousness. And now I want you just to kind of remember having this feeling before. That vibration of not being appreciated, being controlled, being manipulated. And who is the person that did this to you before?
My mother.
Yeah. Right. So now what I want you to do is I want you to bring her into the consciousness. Right? Like really take a look at her. Right? You've spun around and he's behind you and the mother is standing there. Okay. Again, see the way that she moves her mouth, her facial expressions, the way she smells. And tell her, Mom, I'm mad that.
Mom, I'm mad that you never listened to me and were never there when I needed you.
Let it come. I'm mad that.
I'm mad that you would always put me in the room next door and never listen when I cried or when I needed you.
Yeah. Let that vibration come up into the body. Right? Feeling to that emotion. Right? As the layer falls into sadness, never listens to me, can't hear me, puts me away. Right? Let that rise up into the body. And now start again. I'm sad that.
I'm sad that I feel trapped, like I'm in a cage. I can't get out.
And who's holding the key? Who's controlling you? Who's controlling the cage?
My parents?
Yeah. And who's standing in the front?
My dad?
Yeah. And how does that feel? Like, how does it feel to be controlled and to be told what to do and not listened to and disrespected? How does that feel in the body?
Oh, in my throat, I can feel it. Burn.
Yeah, because that's where it's holding, right? Not allowed to say anything, right? So allow that to just kind of open up. Seems like it's looking around the corner to make sure that it's safe, right? when it is safe. So, Dad, what is the emotion? Mad, sad, or scared?
Scared.
Yeah. Dad, I'm scared that. What are you afraid of? What's going to happen to you in that box? Being controlled. Of being hurt.
It opens the space for someone else to come in and control.
Yeah.
So I'm not heard, and other people don't hear me.
Right. So other people don't hear you. So what do you want to say to him? Right? Like, what do you want to say to him?
And I'm angry.
Yeah. About what? Like, what's pissing you off? What do you want from him? What is he not doing?
He's not letting me be me.
Yeah.
Like letting me be free.
Right. Controlling.
Yeah.
Makes you angry.
Yeah.
Tell him. Dad, I'm mad that.
Dad, I'm mad that you controlled me and did that to me.
Let's let that out of the body. Ah! There. Oh, I'm mad that. Let the sorrow rise, right? Like you're not being heard and not being recognized and not being felt, not being connected, being isolated, being controlled yet alone. You put aside the sorrow, sadness. What need for you? Like, who do you want to come in there? Who do you want to show up so badly?
I want my mom to come in and make it all okay.
Yeah.
But she doesn't.
Oh, and what does that feel like? Like if she doesn't come, right? Like you're
It
waiting.
don't matter. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you just said you don't matter,
Yeah.
right? Right? You understand that you're being controlled and you don't matter and all of these things that are taking on as your life is. And you feel that vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I want you to take a look. The boyfriend. Like spin around in your mind and feel it. Is the vibration the same?
Yes. It's the same, but it feels like way more intense. And
Right.
kind of like when I throw up.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, that is good, right? Like that's the physical part that wants to come out, right? Like bleh, bleh. And normally, like if we weren't on air, I'd have you throw up, right? Because that's a place where the physical sense of throwing up means you're really throwing it up. And you're getting rid of it. That's why in this process that happens sometimes. The snot starts flowing or the screaming starts happening. The vibration that's held comes out of the body and the physical and the energetic side of field of it. And so the process normally would go into a much deeper space, but for the purpose of the show and kind of just giving examples of how what we're experiencing in the now, usually, especially if it's a wounding, falls back into a time where it was created, right? And it became our life is. And as we put up that ad, the things that are showing up for us are they're gonna say exactly that. They're like, yes, okay, this is it. You're right. And the universe always wants to let you know that you're right.
Yes, she's ever accommodating.
Yeah, love that. Right?
So tell me, Sherry, after someone goes through the process or even before it's completed, what sorts of things, since we can't expect other people to be miraculously changed or turned over or turned around, what sort of tools I mean, I know what I've gotten from it, because I also like to use this process as well. What sort of tools do you think people can look forward to having in their arsenal to do things differently when these feelings arise again?
Well, like one of the things that happens is when you're able to recognize the child that is generating the emotion, right? That because when the vibration sticks in the body, a vibration doesn't age, right? It stays the same. The body continues to grow and age and all these other things, but that vibration that's stuck is stuck at the age it came in, right? So it's almost like as you bring these things to the consciousness, it's like a merging of the fragmentation, right? The energetic fragmentation that happens in trauma. It's like merging it back into the cellular structure of the body, merging it back into the whole, putting it back into the light, I guess, is the best description, although...
Cosmic recycling, I like it.
Yeah, and that's really what it is, right? Because we don't know how to do that. We're generating from these places, we're living in these places and not actually releasing them, right? We think we are, right? Like if we think that, we're, like people will say, well, I already know that. I already have dealt with that 100 times. But the truth is that you haven't felt into, you haven't let that little girl tell their mommy or tell their daddy or tell their perpetrator, this is what you did to me. This hurt me. This made me mad. This made me sad. This scared me. Because when fear comes into play, right, fear is the lowest vibration.
He has
and it's like it spreads like a cancer, multiplying for no good reason, and it cannot seem to ever pinpoint the source, but it's constantly growing.
Exactly.
So this is, I think, really important in pinpointing that source to stop that epic growth of a cancer of your literal entire physicality.
Right. And so one of the things that
it's coursing through our electrical system, which is what your kundalini. It's coursing through there. Like that's your circuitry is now contaminated. You've got a virus.
And that you just hit it, because that's another part of this is actually realigning the kundalini in the body, right? That's all part of what I'm talking about energetically, is that when you come in and your body is no longer generating from those dark physical spots, it is aligned in the way that it's supposed to. So it's firing the way it's supposed to. It's hitting all of the spots in your kundalini to put you into your higher I am, right? To allow the information, the whatever it is that you're seeking manifestation to happen from that place.
Right.
So
like giving you bandwidth. You're getting more.
Right.
And you can receive, you're able to receive it. That's the key point. I think a lot of people get a lot of things offered to them as far as information, downloads, or what have you. But if you don't do anything with it, what good is it?
Exactly. So what I'd like to do, what I'd be interested in is I'd like to have Bethany kind of talk about her experience with how the process feels to her, because it kind of, like I said, we cut it very short. Normally the process is 45 minutes to an hour, and there's all these other dynamics that happen. And like when you were talking about the toolbox, I mean, one of the things that I bring to the table is the ability to see into the body, right? Which is something that it can be considered maybe a psychic ability, or I don't like titles, and so it's a vision of when I'm working with somebody, I can actually see where the dark spots are held. And this is something that I've been able. It didn't come to me. I wasn't, I was born with this ability, and so it helps in the process when somebody feels stuck. I can kind of redirect them. I can't do it for them because, again, that doesn't stick, but I can take their consciousness into that place by kind of slapping it around a little bit, right? Like, and slapping is not a very, I didn't want to go there.
Hey, Gail Kenyon says, we have a listener that says, excellent way to show the process. Thank you. She comments, will those who also have this same core wound also clear as this is done on air as a group if they follow the process along?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. So there will be people on the line who all of a sudden, like, they totally get it. Like, they will understand exactly what she's experiencing. They have wounding. They totally have understanding of it. They were able to see where theirs stemmed from, and bam. That's, again, the universe showing up, right? It does it for all of us. What we're supposed to hear, what we're supposed to experience, that's what's there for us if we're not coming from a place of the wounding, of the place where it's damaged, of the place, and that's all judgment, right? It's just really a vibration that we no longer need to vibrate at. Like, let's let that go. Right? Yes. So let's talk to Bethany and see. I'd like to see what her experience was as she was making the connection as to what she's experiencing now and where it started. Right?
All right.
So, it's pretty amazing. Because I've had this pain in my head for like a couple months now, maybe even longer. Like, funny thing about pain is you tend to forget about it, and then like it just comes and goes, and you kind of get used to it. But anyways, after we were done doing that, it's like my whole head I can like hear on like a different, like it's all like just cleared out of my head. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and that is what happens. Is you'll have actual physical experiences right then. Like, it's instant. It's not. This isn't a space where we fuck around, or you like it takes forever, or it takes years. It takes months because we have so many layers as most adults have experienced so much trauma in our lives. But it's like it's not a forever thing. It's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And like with Bethany, because she's experienced this before, she's been in the process, she knows about it, right? So it's like she's able to do it a little differently. Like a lot of people in the release process, like I feel like if I can't make somebody cry or throw up, I'm not doing my job.
Wow.
Right? Because that's what's stuck. The happiness, like the happy days aren't stuck, right? Like people want to experience that. They like that. They want to go into optimistic. They want to see things from the good side.
Yes.
Right? So in this process, one of the things that I get to do, or that I am, instructed, or I don't know how to describe it, but I'm brought to do, is like turn people into the place where, yes, it's like the surfacing, like putting your big girl pants on or putting your big boy pants on brings you into like, you can accept what's happening. But if you can actually fall into it and take a look at it, fall back into the dark side, right? Like pulling you back into the darkness of the story. It's like if I can do that successfully and it releases, it's no longer having your big girl pants on. It's no longer having to accept things that are just happening. It's manifesting in and creating our reality from that place, right? And then showing and passing that on to our children as opposed to the shit what we've been doing forever.
Right. I think it's a pivotal piece in this. Is that here, at least in the West, I can speak of because I live here, but so many generations have been taught to stuff emotions and don't cry or don't show excitement in a meeting, or, if you're a guy and your wife leaves you, you have to be strong, you can't. And so I think it's crippled humankind to a point where I don't think people even realize the power of emotion anymore and what purpose it serves. Because as far as from my perspective, that's the reason we came here. That's the reason we exist, is to feel.
Yeah.
Well, you think about it, and it's like, where else? I mean, and maybe I don't want to sound like I know this for sure because I haven't been everywhere, but like this is the one place where for sure you can feel emotions. So to have it be so crippling and then turn human beings into this, like
a bot.
Yeah, like
robots and drone type people with no feeling.
Yeah,
Them went out a long time ago.
Yeah, that's just it's so like that defeats the purpose, and that's why it's like you keep coming back. People are like, even like people that are awakened to having past lives and re-experiencing, they're like, well, I don't know why I'm coming back. It's like, well, because we're not taking responsibility. We're not stepping into our knowing, our being, our understanding. Like, it doesn't matter. We don't have to take judgment upon it. We don't have to go, oh, shit, I did it again. You don't even have to go there. It's like, it's just the way that it works, right? It's like, okay, now you take each experience and you go, wow, like, okay, I got to feel that, and you let it go, right? And then you move on to the next and start creating those vibrations that you want to feel.
From a platform. That's like going to an amusement park and planning for this wonderful time or day, and you get on the roller coaster, but before you get on, you take like 4 Valium.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing that for? Like,
yeah, what did you get
point of
that
that,
for?
right?
Exactly. Somebody let me know when it's over. I mean, why exist? I want to live.
Yes.
And that's what's funny about you saying that is look at how many people on the planet are on some kind of med, right? Like it's like everybody's got a pill, or everybody's got, they're taking depression, they're taking this, they're taking that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, instead of, like, I guess to me it just makes more sense. It's like if you've got 85% of the population living on some kind of an antidepressant, like instead of making the pharmaceutical companies rich, chemically throwing the body into complete chaos, how about we take a look at what the fuck is stressing everybody out?
How about that one?
Like, shit,
exactly.
we just
How
wake
about that?
up and say, hey, you know what, this isn't working.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's like there's so much to, everybody wants to sit around and complain, or everybody wants to talk about the Illuminati or this or that, but it's like, hey, let's take a look at what we're doing every day.
Yes.
How are we projecting into the collective? What are we bringing to the table every day?
And that's the amazing thing about this process is, like, once you clear it, then you're creating from the now. So that's what I've been experiencing even more than before. Like, I got here very quickly. I'm now in Colorado. I made a website, which I had no experience. Someone, like, just gave me everything to get me started and said, here you go.
Awesome.
So I did that, and it's just all about creating in the now.
And you're listening to Elemental Evolution. Yes. You guys can call in at 646-716-4598. Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about, we're talking about evolution. I see evolution as us moving towards something. A lot of people think it's going forward to, Jetsons type reality and all that kind of thing, which may or may not be. But I see evolution as even reflected in the name that I chose to call myself. You people on Facebook who know me as India Irie Sanatana Dharma. And I chose that name because the Sanatana Dharma is something that means we're returning to the ancient ways, what was once simple, symbiotic, and also in balance with the planet and with the other sentient beings here. Instead of when you get sick, you run to the pharmacy or the doctors or the hospital for files of remedies and stuff that never really cure you but give you more problems, to go to nature and find a plant or a root or a food or an herb or something that gives you healing and relief. And it's, I think, a big important part also that we'd like to put energy into here is holistic healing. And I know Sherry does a lot of with essential oils. So maybe we could talk a little bit about, like, what are some of the basic essential oils, like if I wanted to have, like, the top 5, and sort of what could they do instead of, if I have a headache, do I have to take an aspirin? Because I've heard terrible things about aspirin. Should I take a Tylenol? I've heard awful things about Tylenol. Is there the next thing? You know what I mean?
Right.
I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Well, and that's a great topic, because oils are one of the things that I think people put, like, even people that use them, they don't really have a complete concept of how in-depth oils are, right? Like, it's like when you take an aspirin, right? It's like somehow that aspirin knows exactly where to go. It knows that you have a pain in your knee, and it goes there, and it decreases the inflammation, and it does this, blah, 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 right? Okay. So what an essential oil does, like the plant essence, the essence of earth and everything, the elements that we're made of, it does the exact same thing, right? So as you either consume or you put on your body, which the skin, again, being the largest organ and the best absorption, right? So you put it on your skin, you put it on your feet, you put it on your hands, your eye, whatever, right? it knows exactly where to go, right? It has a purpose. So you have, different things that, like, let's say your body's craving a certain type of mineral, or it needs to produce more of a certain type of vitamin. So people think that they have to consume their vitamins, but really the body will produce what it needs, right? You just have to give it the tools.
Yes.
So like as you use, like somebody's depleted in a certain area, like their body's shut down from dehydration, right? Because what happens is especially with meds, is that it triggers something in the body, just like alcohol and other things. It's like the body cannot absorb the way it's supposed to, because if it absorbs the meds or the alcohol or whatever it is too quickly, it'll kill you, right? So it has to, so as in a survival technique, another great manifestation of the way the body works, it shuts that part down so that it just gets a little, right? And so there's things, though, that can open that up a little bit, but you have to be in caution, and you have to understand that if you're taking meds and you're opening that up, that you can fuck yourself up, right? It's not a joke, because it really does work. It's going in and doing exactly what its intention is, right? So, like, and there's things that can also, that we've used, so many antibiotics and all these things and thinking those are the only cures, because that's what, one of the things with strep throat. Well, you can take a consumable lemon oil, dropping it directly on the spots that have any kind of infection, and it will cure it, right? Not instantly. You have to continue to do it. You follow the instructions, because they have that. Like if you go to the store, a place that has those types of things, you can find the instructions. It's out there. It's just people don't know about it, right? And so
I don't think you have all those lists of, it causes droopy eyelids, your nose is going to leak, you have hemorrhoids, your leg's going to shake, the dog no longer likes you. All of these side effects to cure, I was tired. And now I have all these other problems. So I think that's amazing. That's amazing.
And there's other, like I also use oils in an energetic way, right? Like certain smells, and I could go in, there's all
aromatherapy.
Stories. Right, because and the oil, like the aromatherapy, the sense of smell, like all of our senses have a purpose more than just like, so that we can smell something yummy. It's like there's, it's like frankincense. That is gone through, like if you look at the history and how often and what it was used for, it's like it's bringing in and allowing the essence of what you or others call a Christ-like vibration. Right? It's an opening. And what, in my belief, what that is going straight to the pineal gland.
Pineal.
Whatever that is. Okay,
that you're on a different gland.
I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, anyway. So,
the pineal gland. What?
Right, and so to me, that would make sense, right? It's not that I have proof of that. That to me, if you think about what it's doing, that makes sense. And there's other,
there's tons of science that says that your olfactory system itself, it triggers memories. It can trigger trauma. It can trigger delight or bliss, depending what it's tied to. I mean, we won't go into my near-death experiences in detail, but I mean, like, all of our senses that we know here, like, sound also has a taste. Sound has a smell. So all of these things that we don't know anything about are still come into play, whether they're in our range of perception here in the 3D reality or not. So I think we need to reconnect ourselves to the universe that we're a part of. Instead of wanting to stand out technologically speaking, we need to go back to where we came from, which means we are stardust. We are of the earth.
And
so we need to use it to heal us.
Right, and what I want to add to that is, like, people, when they think of that, they think of, like, resorting to going back and living in a teepee, and it's like,
no.
Right, we've evolved past this, right? Like, we can actually have, like,
Wi-Fi.
Right, like, so, like, the Wi-Fi doesn't have to happen because we can do it ourselves. We can communicate telepathically with any being that we want to, right? We haven't been taught that, right? And people haven't practiced it, and so they don't have understanding of it. But if you can see the matrix, right, and there are people that are like me that that can actually see the vibration, the energy that exists on the planet, that it's like you can see honestly and truly, like you have no doubt as to whether or not we communicate that way, because there wouldn't be, like, it would be impossible not to, right? Like,
well, right. That's that technology, that the skin suit, the being human is more than just being a man or a woman. It's far beyond what we are even allowed, per se, to conceptualize or even fathom. It's, it's shown to you things like, in a movie like The Matrix, oh, that's, Hollywood, that's entertainment. No, they're telling you the truth. So when you sit and think about why are people doing this or why are people not doing that, a lot of it is not even because they're not awake. There's so much playing against you, like even in your foods and your water, to make sure that your pineal gland is calcified. And that's your antenna. That's your crystal technology that's right there in the center of your brain. And it's manipulated so that it's numb. They're blacked out.
Yes,
So
and I
there's
think
things
what's
that
kind of
address that.
right. But what's kind of cool, I mean, for me, in watching how the planet is evolving and how people are evolving, like I'm watching a lot of the younger generation come in, the crystals, whatever you want to call them, the vibration looks different, right? Their vibration looks different. They come in different. And so, yeah, and it's like, and what's happening is that they are actually bringing to the planet, like, it's like if you don't know about something, you can't experience it, right? It's like those Indians that were sitting there watching Columbus and never saw a freaking ship at all.
Right.
Right? Like that's so tag on, because if you don't know that it exists, it's not in your reality.
It doesn't exist for you.
Like maybe you see it, right? Like who knows how deep that goes? Like maybe there's spaceships all over the place, but because we're not vibrating, we don't have consciousness, we haven't practiced vibrating at whatever place they are, well, then it's just not there.
It doesn't exist.
Exactly. So maybe we're those Indians, who knows?
Sorry.
For our listeners, welcome to Blog Radio. And you're listening to Elemental Evolution. I'm your host, Leslie Blair, and you're listening to Sherry Wisdom, India, and Bethany Palmer. Yes, and the call-in number is 646-716-4598. And you can also check us out on the website, which is www.elementalevolution.org. Okay? If you have any questions, any additional info requested, feel free to message any of us there. And we have a Facebook page too, yes?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Elemental Evolution. Yes.
Page and group.
Yes. A lot of love in the chat room. Hello, Christine. Yes. Hello, Gail. Yes.
Sherry, I have a question.
We have 31 minutes and counting, so let's go right ahead, moving right along.
I've got a question. If, say, one person in a family, a typical dysfunction or atypical dysfunctional family, goes through and does the process, does the whole family have to do the process for it to work? Like every family member who lives in the house?
No. But what ends up happening is it does end up happening that way because, well, it kind of depends. So in my reality or my experience, what it's been is, so like a parent will be having, a lot of teenage stuff going on, or, different experiences because of the wounding that they've passed on. And when they go through the process, they realize what they've passed on, right? Like they not only realize it for themselves, but they realize how they've handled it, right? Because that's what we do. That's not a place of judgment. That's the way it is. So it's kind of like, well, we start acting differently, right? We start reacting differently. The things that triggered us before no longer trigger us, and so we're able to connect and communicate and teach in a different way. And so that in itself brings the family dynamic to a whole different vibration, right? As the kids aren't getting screamed at and yelled at or gone, or whatever the dynamic can be, it's now all of a sudden a place of serenity, of calmness, of support, right? Because we can see, we can be present. We're not coming from wounding, we're coming from consciousness. it's a different hand down then.
Yes.
Right?
So say a woman, excuse me, is expecting, if she gets herself cleared and deals with all of her wounding, then do you think she'll raise the baby differently so that she doesn't pass anything along?
I don't think that it's necessarily that we don't pass anything along, because I don't know that really, like, that may be genetically not possible. And I don't want to say that for sure. Like, I know, yeah, that's true, because I don't really know, right? But I know that it's like the things are different, and right, and like it's a different way of passing down, and so the wounding isn't as deep. There's more self-confidence. There's more, when you raise a child to feel good about themselves and you give them encouragement and you're connected and you're giving them consciousness, it puts them in a different place, right? They're just, it's like you don't really have to do anything else, and they are going to be different than if they don't have those things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's what's going to happen, right? She's going to be in her consciousness instead of from her wounding passing on her mother's shit. She'll be passing on new shit, but it's different, right? It's like I said, it's more of a consciousness. So there may be stuff that still
it'll be like
passed on that person then gets to deal with because it triggers them. It sticks in their reality, right? Like, and this is a good place to take a look at sometimes when people think that they're awakened, right? Because we're like, oh, I know that this is my wounding, so we're going to do the exact opposite, right? So your mother was totally disconnected, wasn't there for you, narcissistic, you can go down these whole lists. So you become the coddler. You become the totally available, totally on top of it, totally there, right? And what ends up happening is unfortunately, it's the same vibration, it's the same message. You're still telling the child, if you're doing everything for them, if you're coddling them, if you're doing all these things, you're still giving them the incompetent message. It's just a different story, right? So it's like you have to watch where the handoff goes, right? And that's where being conscious of it. And it's that's why I say I don't know that it ever doesn't happen, but sometimes, like for myself, I have young girls, and so when I hand something down and it comes to my consciousness, I'm able to look at them and go, oh, wait a minute. You know what? That was my shit, and I shouldn't have thrown that up on you, but this, whatever, explain it, don't explain it, whatever, sorry, right? Like, that's a big deal because that's giving recognition. Then it's not held in their body, and they can say the things that they want. They can express, right? Like, that's, for me, when my teenage daughter goes into hating my guts and I'm the dumbest bitch on the planet, it doesn't tag me like, oh my God, how dare her disrespect me? How dare her talk to me like it doesn't go there. I'm like thinking, bam, baby, don't hold it in. Let it go. Let it go so that you don't create. That's the difference, I think.
All right. Can we take a break here? Everybody cool with a break?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Elemental Evolution here on Blog Talk Radio with your host, me, Leslie Blair. All right. Okay. We'll be back in 1 minute and 6 seconds. All right. Enjoy.
As we witness the planet evolving and changing, we are more than mere bystanders. We, as the collective of humanity, are experiencing a perfect reflection upon which the universe has orchestrated itself. Our bodies, they are the missing link. Evolution is upon us, below us, in us, and in all of creation.
Here we go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Hello, and welcome back to Elemental Evolution. And we're here with Sherry, Wisdom, India, and Bethany.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, so if you'd like to call in, we have 24 minutes left on the show. The number to call is 646-716-4598. Yes. Website is elementalevolution.org. You can also find us on Facebook. So if you have any questions, any info you'd like to know, reach out. We're right here to help. All right, so we're continuing with Elemental Evolution. Welcome aboard.
I think the most amazing thing for me about this process is once it's brought to my consciousness, it's gone, then I can deal with it. Then I can always see it after that, so I don't have to keep recreating the same thing and playing the same story. Sherry's telling me you're just on a no buying list. So it's I'm not gonna buy that. I'm not gonna go there. I don't have to do that. I don't have to play that game today. I don't have to fall into that story or pattern.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, that is a big deal for people, though. It seems so simple, but it's we always think, or sometimes it seems like people think that they have to buy into whatever people tell them, right? So if they say, oh, well, you have this wrong. It's like going to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, you've got 3 months to live, and the guy dies, and then they find out there was nothing wrong with him. You know what I'm saying? It's and that's, you find that in a lot of the metaphysical realities of things, because what is true for one being may not be true for another, right? And so when you're messing with energy and you're not being conscious of the way that you're projecting out and what you're putting out and how you're filtering, right? So you can have great intentions and you're healing, but if you've got shit in your body, that's also being projected into the person you're dealing with, right? You don't get to take a little piece of it. It all is together, right? It's so that's one of the problems when, you have, psychics and different things. It's not that they're not of truth. It's not that they're not, that they don't have those abilities. It's that they're still, and maybe not all, but in my experience, they're still filtering through the body, because that's what brings it to the 3D. And when that filters through the body, there's those unconscious or those spots that have not surfaced, that we're not aware of, that are still in that collective projection.
It's great because we can change it. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
We don't have to live in that story. We don't have to do it. We can heal it, and then we can create from the now. And how more amazing can you get than that?
Right. And you can
It's
stop
the
passing
end
up.
of the victim mentality. I think it's the worst thing that ever happened to this planet.
Right.
Let's be a victim and be okay with it. What?
Right.
Well, and the reason it happens is because people go into fear, and they're okay, well, as soon as somebody goes into fear and their vibration hits that place of think about it. When you're in fear, you're in helpless, you're in hopeless, you're in just, such a low bullshit thing.
Right.
It's anybody that offers anything, it's you just take it, right? That's why abuse happens, and that's why in relationships you're well, they didn't mean, you make all these excuses because it becomes at least it's something, right? It's some kind of vibration, and I don't have to feel what's really going on, or I don't have to take responsibility. I can just say, well, this person is doing this to me.
Or this is what you equate love with or attention with. This is how it must be because this is how it was at one time.
Exactly.
I don't believe it. I don't believe in habits like that.
Right. That life is still there, right? So when it came into the body, that 3-year-old who felt alone or watched the daddy hit the mommy, or whatever, or the mommy hit the daddy, either way, right? It can be that vibration sticks in the body. Well, that becomes the life is, and even though they may experience a lot of abuse, they may become the abuser, right? Because this brings us to another place of, again, a trilogy. We're going to play a certain role in our existence in this reality, right? When we're going to play the game, there's rules, right? So the rules are you get to play 3 roles, again in 3s, right? You get to play the victim, the villain, or the hero, right? And so whatever role you choose, whoever shows up, they're going to fill those other slots, right? They're going to come and they're going to show up for your show, and they're going to play those roles out for you, right? So when you're in hero mode, dun-dun-dun, you're going to fix everything, you're going to fix everyone, you're going to do all these great things. Bam, all of a sudden you have the victim, right? The wozy me, help me, fix me, help me. And then you also have the villain, the one who's messing with everybody, the one who's being naughty, the one who's doing everything wrong, right? And then all of a sudden you become the victim, right? And then you have the villain, and then you have somebody come in and save you, and then all of a sudden you're the villain, you're doing this shit to everybody else and really throwing up on everybody and blah, blah, blah. And so then a hero is coming in and persecuting you, and that puts you back into the victim, and then you come in. You see what I'm saying? You're like constantly rotating in this game.
So that never ends until you end it.
Right, until you pull yourself.
No one's going to stop it for you.
Right. Well, and you have to bring it to the consciousness. Like, what role am I playing here? Like, what am I feeling? How is this going? Am I being the hero? Am I being the victim? Am I being the villain? Like, what is it that I'm playing? And how can I just pull myself out of the game, right? Like, I don't even want to switch roles. I just want to take a look at the dynamic of the game that I created and go from there.
So I want someone in the chat room, EMC44, said that there's so many ways for this process to unfold.
Yes.
And yes, there are, but some ways are faster than other ways, right?
Right. Well, and that's one of the things, too. It's like if you're at a place, and this is what I have found to be true, like if a person is at a place where they are completely sick and tired of the way they've been living and they can recognize that it can be different, but they just don't quite know how to get there, this process like zooms it just like, whew, like you hit it and go. Yeah, right? If you're at a place of where you're still in confusion, you're searching, but you're not really sure, and you want to do it, but you're not going to show up for every session, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and you're going to let all these distractions happen, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's going to take longer, and it's going to, here's your medical warning, is once you start this process, right, it's like you don't get to unlearn, right? You don't get to close the box. It's like opening up Pandora's box, right? And so it's like one of the things that once you open up that box, you got to deal with it, because otherwise you start living it, right? When you bring those things to the consciousness, if you don't release them and they are just spinning in your body, they're going to bring them right forth in your face. Like, so whatever that wounding is that's come up, and if you decide, well, I'm just not going to go there anymore, this is bullshit, blah, 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 bam, bam, bam. It's hitting you right in the face so that you can actually feel the emotion that's stuck, right? So it allows you to feel it at that time. And if you keep suppressing it, it just builds and grows bigger. And that's, again, how sickness and death, right?
Yes.
And so we have the EMC 444 is like saying, going within, and that is the whole process, right? It's everything. Everything is generated from within, but it's also recognizing it, what we are projecting out and bringing to ourselves, right? So it's like we can say, oh, it's all within, but if people don't have consciousness of what is actually inside of them, right, the universe that is created and developed and actually manifesting from within our being, they're limited, right? They're in a box.
You have to almost take a fractal, like a Mandelbrot set type of a view. You got to go within, and then within, and then within, and then within. And what is what's at the core of within? And what is it resonating what you want to resonate? Is it emanating what you need it to emanate so that you can receive what it is that you desire, or that will make you feel
happy.
Blissful, not even happy, because that can be passive. Blissful, like that's a state that you can't even compare it to. You can't get there with a drug.
That's right.
But it has to come from you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like when you're vibrating at that level and you come to that place, which, I'd like to say that I live there, and sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but it's like, it's addictive, right? Because it's so phenomenal, and it's like that's the waking up happy and going to bed the same way, no matter what the story is playing out. It just doesn't matter. right? Because it's a story, and you can change it the next day, right? Like you can flip the page, or you can buy a new book, or you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? It's our option.
You can just change how you feel about it or how you perceive it, because the situation could be the same. I don't like a flat tire. I can't stand a flat tire. Right. A flat tire can be a very funny situation if you allow it to be.
Well,
it doesn't have to ruin your day.
It's like one of these things. It's like, and you and I both know who I'm talking about. It's like deciding to go on a trip, right, and not getting your car ready.
Right.
Well, okay, so if you are
how do you think that's going to work out?
Well, it's like if you're a fabulous manifestor and you're in creation and you can actually, like, energetically move your vehicle in a way that it's not going to break down and all that kind of stuff, bam, you go for it. But if
you don't need a vehicle.
Right. So yeah, exactly. Hello. If it's not there, you probably ought to check the oil and the tires and take off, right? I mean, that's just common sense. So that's the reality of being in 3D also has to do with, like, taking a look and going, yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, right? Like, the term, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Indeed.
It never works.
Right. Well, and how many people of us? How many of us live in that? Right. Like it's like we keep doing it. It's like that's like half the planet is, or more than half the planet is completely insane.
And they're spinning, and they don't even know it.
MC44. He asked a question. He said, "Life feels sucky sometimes. Is it a reflection always?"
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
If it wasn't in you, you wouldn't perceive it.
Because the whole thing is, whatever you're bringing in, it's like there's so many things and perceptions in that, and that's exactly what it is. It's perception, right? So if you take a look at what you're going through, right, and so let's say that this person is, at their job, there's a circumstance where their coworkers are targeting them, or their boss is, making an example of them, or, we can go down a very simple list of at the job. Well, if they take a look at how they felt growing up, they probably felt the same vibration in their reality, right? Like the parent, always kind of overseeing, making them feel subjected less, not as superior, all those different things, right? So it's just, again, it's a recreation. But then it's also a perception, right? Like when you're looking at it from the wounding and from that side, it's like, okay, I'm creating this, right? But also, what is the physical reality of it? Like, what are you doing to make your life sucky, right? Like, if you're going to work and you're gossiping about other people, or you're not finishing your work, or you're half-assing it, or you're, you go down the list, and you're the only one who knows it.
You wake up determined it's going to be a bad day because you have to go to work. Well, you want to eat, and right now that's the way you have to do it, so that's what you have to do. You know what I mean? Or you can live off the grid. You always have a choice. But while you make a choice, don't complain while you live the choice you made.
And that's where you have to, like, you also have to stay, again, in your being, right? Because, if, like you said, if you're going to work and you're not really showing up, right? Like, you're not doing what you're supposed to and all these things, and somebody calls you out on it, and then you're like, damn, that's an asshole. Well, no, they're not being an asshole. They're calling on your shit, telling you to show up, right? Like, you're getting paid, do your job. So that's not really, like, we take things so personally without wanting to take responsibility. Yes. And that's what it comes down to.
Because I've had some jobs that I really, really, really didn't like, paid well. So, at the time, I was there, professional and whatever. Hated every second of it, but I didn't wear that. And so other people who hated it and walked around acting like they hated it, well, I want to be around her because she's so silly. Well, I'm going to be silly because I could walk around here looking like I want to punch people, but then I won't understand why I'm having a terrible day. When if I'm silly, I got to be here anyway. Let's make it fun.
Right.
And your life is that way. And
we're
core of it.
We're approaching the last 10 minutes of the show. So again, thank you, listeners, for tuning in, of course. And if you have any questions, by all means, call 646-716-4598. And you've been listening to Elemental Evolution, yes, with the host Sherry, Wisdom, India, and Bethany. And yes, hello, Gail. Yes, hello. Yes, and hey. Yes, EMC 44. Yeah, 444. Yes. Okay, so Let's see. Oh, we got some more. Wait. Thank you, Gail. Gail says, congratulations on a wonderful show. Great information and great host. Oh, we like that. Oh, thank you,
Thank
Gail.
you, Gail.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Like that.
Smiley face
Like
emoticon.
that. Indeed. That's a beautiful thing. Yes. And so, again, you can find us at www.elementalevolution.org. .org. Yes, .org.
Yeah.
And, so just reach on out. We're here to help. This is what we do. And it's about fine-tuning ourselves and having a better experience as this human experience and sharing the knowledge and healthy wisdom, right, to help the collective. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Move
Exactly.
the planet and all of us forward into who knows what. It's going to be amazing, though.
We love
Time
you.
for a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's going to happen
Do
whether
something
we
different.
do it consciously or not, so we might as well just, jump
I'm
on
going to
the thing,
participate.
right?
I'm down for a party anytime, yeah.
Yeah, let's jump
I
on
want to do this.
It's time.
Jump again.
Yes. Sherry, well, can anybody of any age do this process, or do you have to be 18 or?
Well, it's not really a matter of age. For myself, personally, I have other programs that I work with children, like teaching them, energy and, other different things. But as far as this process, if you process a child and they're still in a wounded environment, right, like they're still being handed down the tray of shit from their parents, it really doesn't do much good. So it's more important to process the parents so that then they can process the children and hand it down and become a new learning, a family dynamic, a planetary evolutionary shift.
Yes.
So that's kind of and it doesn't have to be a parent. I mean, it can be anybody that's kind of at an age where the front lobe of the brain is developed, right? Because that's where, and that's usually, people think that that's a lot younger than it is. It's usually not until about the age of 22, 23, 24.
Yeah, it's way past when they think puberty ends or adolescence.
That's right, yeah. Right.
Yes. I have a 22-year-old, so I know this way too well. Listen, I wanted to know, you were talking and you said energy, you can teach energy to little kids. Tell me a little bit about what can you teach a little kid about energy?
Well, it starts out energy is such a part of our being, right? But we don't have reality of it. People, it's like they can't see it or they don't really understand it. It's the same concept as with the Columbus thing we were talking about with the Indians, right? It's like it's not in the consciousness. But a child who hasn't developed judgment on what's happening, right? You can take them and form their consciousness in a totally different way. You take a 2-year-old and instead of playing and pulling out a bouncy ball, you actually, in your hand, you let them watch you manifest the ball, right? You let them watch you create the ball in your hand, right? And you can start to feel it. You can feel the energy, the pressure that's coming in, the heat, all these different things. So you actually just manifest the ball, you grow it bigger, and you let them watch this. And then, you throw it at them, right? And you let them catch it, right? And then you start playing with the energetic ball, right? And they don't even know that they are practicing their energetic abilities, right? And so at that point, then they're learning how to manipulate outside of just their own being, right? Telekinesis, blah, blah, blah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and you can go on other, dissolving clouds, doing things that actually bring it to the consciousness that they have, they have control, and control you don't want to use too, you don't
need parameters.
Right, you don't want to give too much to that ability, right? You have the ability to actually control things outside of your being, your element, your reality.
And that comes with so much responsibility, which I think is what's lacking in our society today. With all good things comes responsibility, and that's so important. I wish we could teach kids to do yoga and things like that when they're young. So much more
that's
important.
all part of this, right? Because that's the thing. When children are starting to be raised in a way that is of their being and their consciousness is recognized and they're not suppressed and all these things, all of a sudden the realities that we have known are not going to be, right? That's another, there's evolution. Bam,
I still
baby.
believe that. Yeah, I believe that because there's no such thing as, what was it? The saying from the movie, the Bee movie, that the bumblebee is too fat to fly, but the bumblebee doesn't know that, so it flies anyway.
That's right.
And I think that's like the best little illustration of where we're at. Let's fly anyway.
Right.
Forget what we're told because it's all wrong.
And that even goes, and you know what's great about that? I mean, honestly and truly, it even goes, like, in this reality, like, we can take that from the movie and we know it's true, but, like, if you look at an airplane, if you are an engineer, there's really absolutely no reason that an airplane should fly. Like, it's the most ridiculous fucking thing I've ever seen. But it does, right? It does it every day, 80 million times, on and on and on, and it's not in anybody's reality that it won't. Right?
Right.
And guess what? It does all those times. So it's like, is that of truth? Is there something that we're not understanding, or is that just the consciousness that it's going to work? Like, I don't know.
That's right. I think we have to start with them young because telling people what you can't do is the most excruciating thing I can witness being done. I mean, it's like a little kid or anyone. If you sit on a chair, very few people stop to wonder, is this chair going to hold me? You just sit on it.
That's
because
right.
you expect it to. I can't name any. I don't contemplate a chair. I just assume that if one ever breaks, I'm stunned because that was not supposed to occur.
That's right. Well,
but don't doubt things. And then, I think that the next generation will be so much more forward than we were before we were enlightened, I guess, to what we don't know.
Yes.
Well, it's pretty amazing, and I think that as we continue on with our show, we'll be able to, even identify on a deeper level, like how people manifest and create from these places of perception, not just wounding, right? It's like the wounding that is of perception, once it's come to the consciousness, it all of a sudden takes on a whole new reality. You're like, fuck, that wasn't even real. That wasn't even true, right? Like, there's so many things in our perception that, like being unloved or being unwanted and being able to energetically fulfill those needs for ourselves. There's another example of going within. The proof we're always thinking that we're waiting for somebody else to show up, but the truth is that we need to show up.
Right? Right. We have 2 minutes just about left for the show. So if there's anything that you want to reiterate or make sure that the listeners have any question, by all means, let us have it. We got like about a minute or so to go. And you're listening to Elemental Evolution, 646-716-4598, www.elementalevolution.org. And I think it's about time for us to close this episode.
I just wanted to say thank you, Leslie, for the great job that you're doing, hosting along and carrying this band of ladies. It's really a pleasure.
And I want to extend that, like Leslie.
Thank everybody for showing up.
Everybody that who helped us put together. I mean, I just cannot even send out enough gratitude to everyone and any piece that helped this come together. And I hope that people really get our intention on this and are able to, somehow take whatever they need from it and get on the train, baby. Welcome to evolution.
All right.
Because it's going whether you're on it or not.
Exactly. The train has departed.
Just saying.
All right.
As the collective of humanity are experiencing...
Thank you for listening to Elemental Evolution. And tune back again. We'll be coming on next Sunday, this time. All right?